Hey team, just a really quick one to say thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. It has been an absolute blast being here for the last 12 years making content, and it's so cool to see that some of you have stuck around this whole time. And I'm looking forward to all the new adventures that will come from this, and I hope you stick around for them. Anyway, enjoy the episode. You got a good one in store, so I won't keep you waiting. Struggle to start every single time.
That's fine. What if this is the start? Were you recording when I was doing my Justin Roiland impression?
No, I missed the Justin Roiland, unfortunately. But,
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Oh well. Maybe this is it.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't a bad way to start it. How's things, George?
It's good. Jeff Bezos has sounded the horn of Gondor. He paid $1 billion for it, put his lips to the mouthpiece, and here we are. We're back after 3 weeks or however long it's been.
Yeah, extra long wait because we had our usual 2-week hiatus, and then instead of hitting it on the 2-week mark, we were like, why don't we wait a couple more days, because then the Lord of the Rings comes out, and then the Lord of the Rings came out, and so now we have 2 episodes to talk about in one episode. So it's fucking, it's profit. It's profit. What have you been watching, George, other than the show of the week?
Other than that show and the other show of the week, I have watched a Finnish horror movie called Hatching. I went to this Odeon event where they put on a movie and they don't tell you what the movie's going to be. And the whole thing is they tend to be like, they're pre-release movies that have lots of good buzz around them, good reviews. So the hope is you see something good.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case this time. I thought the movie sucked. Which is weird. My friend and I discovered after seeing it that it apparently has like lots of really good reviews from wherever it's been shown already.
Yeah.
It feels like if Blumhouse tried to make a Guillermo del Toro movie.
Oh.
Yeah, where it has this like horror fairy tale feel, except for it has like the lack of logic and just really annoying characters and set pieces from something like a more mainstream horror movie that America tries to produce. Except for this time, it's just Finnish.
Yeah, fair enough. Brutal. Yeah, savagery.
Good, unfortunately.
Fuck off if you like that film. Get out of here. George said you're not allowed to listen to my podcast anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you like bits. There's like lots of really absurd stuff to it, which is like kind of funny. But it kind of like rides that line of how much of this is meant to be actually funny and how much of this is just like fucking stupid and just bad. But yeah, not good. I wouldn't say I'd recommend it.
I see. Fair. Brutal. What else has been cracking?
I also went to go and see 3,000 Years of Longing. Have you heard anything about this movie? So I've not seen, apart from like an advert on the tube. I haven't seen a single fucking thing for this movie. It's George Miller's movie. So fucking like Mad Max Fury Road himself said, I'm going to make this movie with Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba. Yeah. It's going to cost fucking millions upon millions of dollars.
And we're not going to spend a penny on marketing.
Yeah, it's fucking like wild. And I went to see it on the National Cinema Day on September 3rd, where all tickets are dead cheap as well.
Yeah, so you're not even funding it. Was it good?
Yeah, it was fucking like really good. And that's the problem. Because it's so like inventive and just visually really creative and fun. Yeah, it's just really, really well made. Because the tickets were cheap, I got to go to this like Dolby screening where the sounds, extra beefed up and everything, and that was all great. Tilda Swinton, Idris Elba, both awesome, and just like lots of really fun. It's spliced in all these like kind of like small stories from Idris Elba talking. Sorry, I should say, because you don't know anything about the movie. He's like a genie. And Tilda Swinton finds a bottle of him inside, and it's all about him like telling her stories so she can give her wishes.
I'd imagine it doesn't look like it looks in my head right now from your description just then. But I'm very much enjoying the hypothetical film that you've just described to me.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it is closer to what you're imagining than maybe not. I don't know. It like leans towards that. I guess it is a bit more like a proper Guillermo del Toro movie. It's the opposite side of Hatching, where it has a bit more of that like adult fairy tale feel. But yeah, it was just like really well made. It was nice to see something that had that much craft put into it and cost as much as it did, knowing that it will never make that money back whatsoever. But just knowing that a studio allowed that to happen.
It's not like a Netflix film or something doing a quick theatrical release.
No,
or anything.
it's like an MGM film or something. Damn. I think that was the studio in front of it. Like fucking, that's what they're up to now. Apparently, just funding this stuff.
Damn. Okay. Fair. Damn. Well, there you go. The other thing you've been watching, of course, is the Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon, which we will get to, I promise. But I want to completely interrupt this discussion with, I actually saw something. I went to the cinema on the same day, the cinema cheap day, purely by accident. So, picture this. It's been a long day. I've had a couple of bevies and I'm out and about on the town, you know. It is 10:30 p.m., okay? And I'm strolling and I'm like, ooh, I could go for a cinema trip right now, right? Like some kind of psychopath. And I pull out my phone and I'm like, I wonder what's showing. And it just so happens that what is showing at the exact right time for me to go is a film made by a friend of mine from the Bristol area. He's a guy called Adam, who is he's VFX artist and cinematographer. He's made a film with a guy called William, and it's called The Fence, and they made like a really short film about the same thing for basically no money. Got a shit ton of funding and then made a feature about the same thing but longer, and it has one of the actors from Game of Thrones in it, but God knows who the fuck it is. I couldn't tell you. Let me get the cast up right now and we can test you with it. Is it David Perkins? No. Is it Lee Armstrong? I don't know. It's somebody. It's like one of the younger actors, I think. I don't know. Well, anyway, it was really good. It was like proper. I was thinking I was going to be looking at it like, oh, this is going to be a really low budget, cute thing, because it was a really low budget, cute thing, and they spent a shit ton of their own personal money on it, and it like was a nightmare shoot and everything. And within like 30 seconds of it being up on the big screen, you're fully lost, and it feels like a movie. And it threw me for a loop because I went in because I know the names attached to it, and I thought, oh, that would be cute to go and see that film. And I walked out like, damn, that was actually a really fun film, like really enjoyable. Not that I expected bad films or anything like that, but you know what I mean. It's just a good little thing. So, I don't know whether it's going to come out on streaming later or anything like that, but I know that they're doing a very limited theatrical release in the Bristol area. So, the one half a person who is living in Bristol listening to this should go and see it while they can.
Awesome. What wholesome story as well. You're just happening upon the movie.
Yeah. And it all just lining up perfectly. And it was cheap. So, Anyway, shall we move on to our news? I do feel threatened a little bit by the news here because you've thrown me a curveball. You're showing me a thing that I am intentionally not allowed to have seen until now. And previous incarnations of this type of segment have always been fucking horrible to look at. So I really hope this one's not the same. Here we go. I'm going to switch the screen now. Oh. Now what other than the fact that this is a Netflix film coming out December 1st, what the fuck is this?
I want you to tell me what you see, Charlie. What is this poster?
Like King Kong? It looks like King Kong is what this looks like.
I don't think it is. Like, okay, for the record, I have absolutely no fucking idea what Troll 2022 is. I opened up my newsfeed earlier today. I saw this poster and went, "What the fuck am I looking
at?" So tell me all about it. What did you do? Any research? Did you find anything out?
No, you know what? I thought this was a mystery that was best left unsolved. I just thought I'd know that a movie called Troll is coming out on Netflix on December 1st.
With no discernible actors or names attached.
No, it is
only
just
that mountains may move. I see.
I mean, like, what the fuck?
I don't know.
What? I feel like it should be some like BFG clone, but like the troll isn't smiling.
So yeah, he doesn't just look kind of a bit more happy about it.
No, it's pretty threatening, pretty, not great about them climbing up his cheek there. So like, but then what's the scale? Because like it isn't like his head, because the mountain isn't curving round; it's still flat. Is he like embedded into this cliff or this mountain, or whatever?
Yeah,
I guess that's like the tagline.
You can't tell whether it's because obviously there's a seam there where something is happening, right? So you can't tell whether it's just like a comp for the poster's sake or whether this will be a movie about a troll this big. What I find quite funny is like, it could be like a Shadow of the Colossus thing of like they have to go and take down this troll.
Ooh.
But then if they're going to do that, surely they would pack more than just like some standard climbing gear. And they're not even doing it with ropes, so he's clearly not that high off the ground or anything,
They look like they've been spat out of Decathlon.
Yeah, it's like an advert.
Yeah. Wow.
Jesus. It is almost like, actually, if you just cropped where the eye ends to there, it would be just like Free Solo or something, like a movie about climbing. Yeah. And it's someone was like, let's AI generate what is outside of the frame. And what we'll do is we'll give it the prompt of like a good movie. And it just comes up with that.
Yeah, that right third of the poster, that right vertical third, it's just like, it's what you'd get if you subscribe to like the North Face's newsletter. And that's what comes attached to it.
A Netflix film, Troll.
Yeah,
very
look how
good.
angry he is. Look at those
he is quite
teeth.
Angry. But he's got like actual hair, it looks like. Or are they like sticks or something?
Maybe they're little bushes or whatever.
I now feel the need to Google this and like actually learn what the fuck this is. Do you actually not know anything else other than this poster?
Not a single thing. I don't know if it's related to that Troll Hunters movie, because I know that's the thing. I can't remember that it's a European movie. It was quite popular about a decade or so ago. It was like a found footage thing, I'm pretty sure, back when they were.
Oh. Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a thing that I'm looking at right now that I don't fuck knows, man. The Letterboxd isn't giving me anything to work with here, other than that there is a movie with no release date called Troll, about a ragtag group of heroes coming together to try and stop an ancient troll awakened in a Norwegian mountain from wreaking deadly havoc. And then the picture is a similarly scaled troll slapping the McShit out of some people.
Yes, okay. There you go. You know what? December 1st, I'll be the first one there. On my sofa watching this.
The only one in line to see Troll, where mountains will move.
Well, I'll be the only one in line, because they won't be showing it. It won't be in fucking cinemas.
Yeah.
They'll turn me around and tell me to go the fuck home.
This is where, like, 2 episodes down the line or whatever, 4 episodes down the line, we have to, like, retract all these comments because it's, like, a really good movie.
Oh, yeah, it's fucking sick.
We'll see. Anyway, so Trolls and Dragons, it seems. Shit, they're making money. Not surprised, considering how much money they spent to make this show and the next show. Is it worth the money, George?
I'd say so, yeah. I was kind of on that general mass of people in that feeling of Game of Thrones ended pretty shit. I'm not really feeling the craving for much more, but I'll give this new show a go because it isn't the same people that finished Game of Thrones off. And wouldn't you know it, they fucking did it. They fucking captured the good shit from Game of Thrones, the more political intrigue and the familial ties, and the larger scale fantasy stuff that's like, ever so slightly injected into Game of Thrones with the dragons and shit like that. And made a really like good looking, well written show with like really, really good characters and strong performances. And it's just like really, really easy and nice to watch. I mean, I watched the third episode last night, and like every single one of them's been a banger so far, with that nice mix of action and character interactions, and yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, I do hope for it. I hope it continues at that height, because this is my criticism of Game of Thrones, like from the very few series that I've endured. I kind of found that the characters and the setup is what kept me going through the first like season and a half, and then you kind of feel the rhythm that they're going for, and you feel the overarching, and that's where it started losing me. And I know that people say it gets way better again, like it's ups and downs, hills and troughs, that kind of thing. But I hope that this kind of it's I don't want to say it's easy, because it's not. It's a really fucking difficult thing, and this is why it's so good when it does go well. But if you have really good characters and you're really good at introducing people, you can make a really, really good show for that first season. And, perhaps the next season will stick up for it. Maybe the next season might take a dip because of it, because it's hard to match that thing. But like, I don't know. I would love to be the motherfucker who gets to just like write the first season, the pilot and the first season of any given show, and then fuck off straight after that and be an exec producer and take home loads of money from it. But yeah.
Well, it's funny with this show because I feel like it'll be a lot harder to do that. I've seen people criticizing House of the Dragon for this, and I don't really see why it's a criticism. It's just like a different approach to the series, in that it has far fewer characters than Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones has storylines all about, Jon Snow's off doing one thing, the rest of the Starks are off here, Sean Bean's off here, Daenerys is over there, the Lannisters have got their shit going on. And it's all, like it cuts between those 4 or 5 different plot lines each episode. With this, it has the different characters, but it's all really centralized in the Targaryens. And it's just a lot more of like bleeding them out and getting a lot more time with each of them individually. So I feel like you'd really struggle, I think, to cover that up in a second season, like you're saying, where you kind of get the variety of everything that's going on. You get to jump between it all. You get to do the White Walker shit, all that.
Yeah.
With this, it's a lot more kind of focused, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah. Oh no, that sounds very, very positive, because again, that's another thing you kind of find with Game of Thrones. There's times where there's so much shit happening that to watch it, you need like cards of all the characters and all their names and what they are to each other, because they'll just disappear for like near entire episodes on end at times. And it more focused for me is kind of, you're honing in on the thing that makes the world interesting. Is again, it's that like relationships thing. You've got your kind of Tolkien's work being like huge, vast scale like worlds, and then you got like George R.R. Martin spitting out some really fucking awesome like interactions with people and all that kind of stuff, and politics.
And it's funny, the stuff that I've always found the least interesting in Game of Thrones is when he's kind of going back to those more traditional fantasy elements, like, the larger scale end of the world stuff with the White Walker and everything. When, the selling point to me, anyway, for Game of Thrones has always been those lot more like intimate scenes and the there's a scene at the end of the first episode between your boy Matt Smith on screen and his brother, who's the king. And it's just 3 minutes of them arguing, and it's like fucking amazing. It's so gripping. And that was the real moment where I'd watching the show. I was like, they're back. They got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, speaking of Matt Smith, obviously you're the Whovian out of the two of us. He fucking crushes it on this show. He's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard a lot about that. In fact, like it was almost like because he did his little stint of blockbusters and they were all kind of sad. All of them ended up kind of sad. Um, but this people are like massively praising. It's clear where his energy was, for a good amount of time. But yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad it's good. Now I raise you the question. The other show, and perhaps the main event of this episode, is also doing very, very well in terms of money and also cost a lot to make. How do you find it?
I thought it was a notch above what I thought Kenobi was going to be. I think it has its positives, and the production value. I think a lot of people have shared this thought already. The production values are really kind of the main selling point, and sort of how they're showing you Middle Earth again with the great visuals and the score, Ben McCreary knocking out the park and all that.
Mm.
The characters and story are the thing that I was a little bit more. I was willing to forgive going into it because I was expecting it to be a little bit lackluster, and for the most part, I think that's kind of where it's at. I'm not vibing with it as much.
Mm.
But that said, it's not like Kenobi, how actual Kenobi turned out, where I'm going to be like watching it every week, I think, and feel like, why the fuck am I? This is like so just wrong and stupid in every way. I think I'm going to be able to go through this show and appreciate it for its positives and have them just about outweigh the stuff that I think it isn't getting quite right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. I think the weakest things for me, I haven't really resonated with anybody. There is one exception to this, and they play absolutely zero role to the story. So we'll come to that in a second. But like, I'm not really resonating with anyone in particular. No one is standing out in terms of like, even in like screen presence and all those kind of like superficial ways a character should stand out for you. No one is really like gripping me. I'm not desperate to see them again. But I'm also seeing this as like, or I'm a bit hopeful in this sense. Like, I feel I'm watching it thinking they've still got time, they've still got time for something to happen to each of these characters big enough to make me care about them or fall in love with them as a character.
Yeah.
Is that a good look when you've just released 2 episodes back to back and we still feel like not a huge amount has happened? Not really, but like, as I say, maybe I'm just being optimistic and just kind of gawping at what they could have rather than what they have right now. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling similar to what you just mentioned, though I am very, very swept by the visuals in a lot of ways. Not just in terms of like, I remember when the trailer dropped and we were kind of like, unsure, it looks great, but it looks not like Lord of the Rings great. It looks like just blockbustery great. Whereas this, I do feel like seeing it now in full. And also the fact that everything in the trailer basically only happens in the first episode as well. Like everything past that is kind of unlocking this greater thing of like, I am being enveloped in it. I am really enjoying the fact that I think they've just nailed the tone of like, this actually does feel like Lord of the Rings. It doesn't feel like some goofy Hobbit thing. It feels like actual, we're back in the same place. Same guy is taking us through the same place or whatever. But yeah.
When it goes to match that kind of scale, and that, how I was saying how Game of Thrones, I feel, when it tries to add in those larger elements, I feel like it doesn't quite work. This, when it's embracing that and knowing that's what Lord of the Rings is like really fucking great at, I think that's where it really shines. I mean, the stuff at the end of the first episodes with the Grey Havens and the visuals there, it is just like such like bombastic fantasy shit, and it works so well, like all of it coming together, just in like an audio visual sense. It's just awesome.
Well, and you've got like the scene where your boy has to hit a bunch of rocks with a hammer and shit like that, where it's like just you pull that scene in isolation and you're watching it and you're like, fucking hell, you know, like the way that the hammer will hit the rock and a spark will fly as the rock cracks itself open and shit. Like, and then obviously you have all these like shots of the varying scales of like character and shit stood next to each other, and you know how much effort has gone into just making this dumb thing look as real as possible or whatever. That's where the show is captivating me so far. And it even like there's some very, very, very simple storytelling happening with certain characters. Like there's a certain romance that's blooming and shit, and like you're just kind of watching it and you're like, fucking hell. But then equally, you know, it's like it's an elf and there's like a you know, they're like running through fields and shit, and you kind of like I don't know, so I'm conflicted, but yeah.
Can we do you want to maybe like touch on each of the different like storylines so far, just to go through, because I'm interested to see. I'm the same as you, as I have one character that actually does have me, and I'm like, I'm happy to see this person on screen. I want to know if it's the same one. Who is that one you were talking about?
So mine, as I say, has absolutely no real impact on the plot at this point in time. I just really, really like seeing fucking Lenny Henry be Lenny Henry. Like he's so like been so perfect in that like tribe leadery kind of type who is supposed to be super wise. And then we get the little private moments where he's just like quietly shitting himself or like hiding things from people and shit. And it's just, again, it's like maybe it's because of the kind of comedy side of his career before, like the charisma that comes through. He just fucking nails it. And actually, I'm quite. So you have this whole the storyline with the Harfoots and the Harfeet, and their whole. You know, the nomadic survivally lifestyle-y shit. But then you also have their encounter with this now, you know, at the end of episode 2, you're in this encounter with a celestial being that they have no idea what the fuck it is, and we don't either, and we're kind of learning it with them. Like, you could show me probably hours of that, and it's not particularly interesting, but it captures everything that makes the first Lord of the Rings film charming in its storyline. You then also have the storyline with Elrond and, you know, his whole felt like at the end of episode 1, they're like dealing up the main quest of the series. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what about Lord Celebrimbor? And they all turn around and he walks in and you're like, fucking hell, here we go. This is the next 9 episodes or whatever. Like that's your main quest, I would say, of this show. I was more swept by, I wasn't particularly taken by Elrond in the first episode because he's kind of a redundant, just like naysayer for the sake of being a naysayer. I'm more swept now that, again, it's like that whole thing of like, he goes to the dwarfs and he's like, hey, leave this with me. This is my shit. And he goes and he's like completely different character, like switches out personalities for them. Like that's really interesting because I'm thinking about how the character we know is different from that character, or like which one of his kind of sweet talking personalities do we see most of the time in the character we know? So I find that one quite compelling. I mean, the most shit kind of happens to Galadriel, but it almost, you know, that whole thing of like, you're playing Red Dead 2, you're trucking through the storyline, you're loving it, and then they throw you onto Guarma and you don't hate it, but it's kind of, you're kind of like, wow, oh my God, they're really just kind of like pulling out all the stops. They need another place for this story to go. She feels like she's gone through some shit in this storyline so far. And I don't know, I'm fully invested in her journey through it.
Yeah.
And then who else have you got? I can't even think who else you've got. I mean, the fucking love story.
Yeah, that's the one that's like, oh, fuck me.
It's not particularly hard to watch. It's just not particularly like thrilling either.
No. I mean, could you tell me a single character trait about either elf man or woman man?
Woman.
Yeah,
no.
Woman.
I mean, I was more swept by, and it's a very simple story. And I almost feel it's like quite ham-fisted the way that they're approaching it so far. And I hope that they aren't like this throughout. But like, I'm almost more interested in her son being a fucking asshole than those two. Like every time they're on screen, I'm like, okay, when's the son going to do something really dodgy and break his character to his mum or whatever, and like throw the whole thing off. That's kind of my more interesting side. Because they got nothing. Elfman is just Elfman, literally just Elfman, plainest possible. His only character trait is that he's an elf, which I wonder if there's some weird writery problem where they're trying to like include the whole like racial biases kind of conversation into their writing, and in doing so are accidentally writing out a story for the character and replacing it with like, the men hate the elves because of this, and so he just has to be the most elfy man ever because he needs to assume all the characteristics that they're right. Disliking. I'm not sure. And then she's just fucking, she's captured the archetypical, like, I am a know nothing character who does nothing and is just here for the journey, which, how am I supposed to care about their love story or their love interestness if they are just like no one, like I can't. What led you to get here other than sheer like you stood next to each other for a prolonged period of time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gone. Pick up my slack. What else are you feeling?
Well, no, just that I kind of agree with everything with that storyline. Like I say, there is just like nothing to either character. And I have to say, I don't even have the hope that you have that they'll end up focusing more on the son character. Because every time he showed up on screen, I was just waiting for him to do something that will fuck everyone over. I'm just not looking, because I can't hope or get invested in that character when he's just a fucking idiot. That's all he is. He has like evil man's very obviously evil sword. He's hiding from everyone. Or I wonder if it's going to get found out eventually. Whoa. Yeah.
But I guess it's that thing of maybe it's because it's juxtaposed to so much nothing and so little stakes almost that like it's a very obvious, like he almost like pulls a fucking landmine with like a 3-episode timer on it out of the fucking basement or whatever. Like maybe that's why I'm going like, I want to see where he goes because he's the only energy in that whole side of the fucking kingdom or whatever is happening over there. I'm not sure, but who else do you liking?
Well, the main character I'm liking isn't Lenny Henry, but it is whatever the main Harfoot girl's name is, Nori. I think I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah.
I think the first episode does a great job of establishing her in terms of she's just that classic, Luke Skywalker archetype of, is a good person, goes along with everything, but, yearns for more and wants more adventure. I think they even like say that in the second episode with the best friends, like, this isn't some adventure. You shouldn't be doing this. Whatever. The Irish accents on the Harfoots, by the way, stunning choice. Amazing.
It's a stunning choice, but they're all fucking horrendous, and Irish people everywhere are very, very angry.
But yeah, I just love the Harfoots vibe in general. That every time that storyline comes, even if I don't really care about whatever that story is at the moment with this celestial dude and the stars, whatever, I like that character being on screen. And even that scene with the berries and how she handles that when the dwarf is on that thing, the way she handles it by like not making a fuss and like, mouthing to the other older one, we need to get the fuck out of here. Just all things like that make the character, seem smart, seem logical and all that. And I'm like really on board with her. Galadriel's an interesting one because I'm the same with you in that all this shit's happened to her, but I don't really have that feeling of like giving a shit about her at all. And I think it's because they do a very good job of establishing her motivation in that first episode with her brother and the dagger's the constant reminder of him and everything. And she's like so driven to making sure that all signs of Sauron and they like really force the last half of the name, the Morgoth or whatever, making sure that's all fucking gone from Middle Earth. And she's so driven by that one idea. And that's great. It's a good setup for the character. Problem is, they do like too good a job of focusing on that with her that like she doesn't have anything else about her. You never get any scene where she just gets to chill and talk with anyone about anything. It is all just focusing on that and her like talking to Elrond in the woods, being all stern and serious. And she goes on the boat and all stern and serious. She remembers her brother and she's all stern and serious. And there's just like not that much to grab onto. Mm. But I do have hope that as the series goes on, it'll be able to progress that a bit more, and then it will end up being a bit more of like an interesting story.
Yeah. I mean, because there was a lot of, if you remember way back when they first did that Vanity Fair thing and we got the first picture of Galadriel, and it said like the caption was like leader of the something armies or something. And everyone lost their shit because it's like, that's not Galadriel. Galadriel's not a warrior type. Like, I guess part of the reason why I feel hopeful that they will hopefully give us more and give us a reason to care about these characters is because we, in that same like Rogue One-y way, we know what they're destined for eventually. You know, we know her personality cannot, by the end of this season, or not this season, but series, I guess, in its entirety, cannot still be what it is now. And whether she changes because she gets what she wants or whether she changes because what she wants changes, I'm not sure. You know, realistically, there is one better option out of those two things. You know, you would develop more with the character if what she wanted isn't what she wanted after all, and we've learned something new about her and she learns something new about herself. But whether we're actually ever going to fucking get there, and whether that's going to happen quick enough for me to care about her screen time, which she is dominating, it feels like, otherwise, I'm not sure. I really don't know. I just hope that they don't fuck it up.
You have a better memory than me, because I didn't remember that Vanity Fair thing where she was a soldier or whatever. Because in that scene on the ice at the beginning, when the first line of dialogue is Commander Galadriel, I like laughed out loud. It just took me by such fucking surprise listening to those two words of the first line of dialogue after the extended prologue and everything like that. It really made me laugh.
Yeah. The extended prologue thing, a lot of people have gone, fuck yeah, Lord of the Rings, because of that, just because it is just Galadriel making a speech over black or whatever, just like the movies. Oh my gosh, like they had to do it or whatever, but nothing that was said other than the fact it was like vaguely fantastical words said in a British accent lowly over a map is like the only thing that attracted me about that. It kind of didn't feel like it was actually setting up anything.
I'm glad you said that, because I kind of feel like the show in general, it feels, I'm surprised how like unfriendly it is to people who aren't familiar with the stuff outside the books. Mm-hmm. And as someone who is like that, I found that first kind of opening 10 minutes or whatever, however long it lasts, to be like really unhelpful and just to be a bit like confusing. And even if I have that like outside knowledge of knowing like the different ages and all of that, if you were to show someone that footage of the war that happens and like the brother being in that fight with all the orcs and stuff, I wouldn't really like judge anyone for thinking that that's the same fight as the prologue in Fellowship of the Ring. Mm. Unless, of course, you have to remind them that this is set before that because the rings haven't been forged yet and everything like that. But the fact that it's like so similar with Sauron leading an army in this giant battle between elves and orcs, that's exactly what it is in Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah, I just felt like it was like leaving themselves open to leave people like really confused. And then like the touching of like they barely all like the Morgoth and Sauron's a follower of him. It's all just like felt really like vague to me, and it wasn't like. It should have been better defined and maybe cut down.
Yeah, I think definitely cut down. I think you can smell that they're like their whole lack of definition of this is like because they're going to do the whole like, oh, a great rumor is spreading, he's back or whatever, you know, the fucking Voldemort shit by the end of the season. But yeah, I think like definitely it was only there because the movies did it and they needed to do something and they just wrote out a padded script for it. Interesting kind of introduction to Galadriel and her brother and that whole dynamic and shit. And I found the kind of weird like attempt at poetry and symmetry of like
with the boat or whatever.
Yeah, like she's ever gonna fucking remember that particular you know, one thing. I don't know. I didn't strange.
How quickly did you grasp that it was her brother that she was talking to? Because I got like known, but I thought he was giving off like creepy camp counselor vibes to me.
Yeah, I did think camp counselor. Yeah, no, I thought like tutor or something. Wise sayer from their group or whatever. Stop being dumb little kids. Grow up a little bit. You're elves. You got thousands of years to be fucking stupid elsewhere. I also like that they're just sunbathing the whole time, and that's like the whole story of the elves. Gotta get that SPF 30, you know, else your neck will go wrinkly.
Speaking of the elves and me talking about how unfriendly it is, that introduction of Celebrimbor I thought was like fucking horrendous. So they have the dialogue where he's like, are you aware of Celebrimbor? It's like the modern day equivalent of saying like, are you aware who Joe Biden is? Like he's the most like skilled, famous smith in this realm of all fucking time. Like, yes, Elrond knows who the fuck Celebrimbor is. And then it's like, he walks on screen and we have no fucking idea who he is. He hasn't been was he mentioned like maybe once in the movies, I think? I mean, I know him because of the fucking games, because Nolan North played him, and he says, what is it? I was really missing Nolan North, actually. Like, the way he just says, like, the Palantir. I wanted that happening, like, every fucking time he showed up. Yeah, I thought that scene was fucking horrendous. Cause, and
he just pops in, and he's just an old guy. We're just kind of like, oh, cool.
It doesn't even say anything. It doesn't introduce him at all as a character. It's just saying, here's this guy who's going to be important, I guess. But, like, that's it. Yeah,
I feel like really maybe this is because I'm a man of excess and ridiculousness. But you almost like, if he's the greatest smith in all of Elven, whatever, you want to be like, are you aware of Celebrimbor, the greatest smith in all of whatever? And then him go, Celebrimbor, with like a question mark, and then hard cut huge hammer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how I had the same point about the dwarves. Where what was the line in the second episode? They go like, we have to go recruit the dwarves, or oh no, it's we'll need a force like any other or something like that. Do you have one in mind? And then it just cuts to this. They either say dwarves. No, sorry, it's on the fucking map. That's how they announce it's the dwarves. They show a thing saying like realm of the dwarves or whatever. I was like, this isn't how movies and shows like this should work. You cut to a dwarf doing the most like dwarf thing you can imagine.
Yeah.
Like, you don't.
But then I guess they don't want to like spunk their load too quick, because we do get quite a lot of dwarfness happening, like you know, and but then it is. I think it's that thing of like they have. I think it's quite a good line when they're like, "Oh, have you thought about maybe employing someone outside of our race or whatever?" And then you got like an eyebrow raise, and then that's like perfect lead into something else. But maybe it is just something stupid, like knock, 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 and it's like the dwarf stood on a kitchen stool or something behind a door. Fuck off! And shuts the door again or whatever. You know, that's maybe how you kick it off, because then you have obviously the very, very sexy shot of the inside of the mountain and shit, and you know, you meet everyone, and there's various dwarfy things happening, but.
Or even you do something similar to what is there, because they have the door, the mine door that's in Fellowship, and it gets to be a cool moment. I really like how they handled that as well, because it isn't some like huge like wanky fan service scene where it's like, look at this fucking, remember this in the movie. It is just, it happens to be set in the same location, but there isn't no like beauty shot of it all happening. I think you could build up the suspense with something like that, where it's like, who do you have in mind? And then it cuts to them walking there slowly, and people who know. And then people who aren't quite remembering it or clued in properly. and you have this like a bit more like importance. You push on the door, you push on them going towards the door, and then you cut the tension with the dwarf poking his head out and going like "fuck off," and then he closes again.
Yeah,
and you do something like that. Just basically anything except for showing a fucking map and going dwarves.
Yeah, but I guess it's that thing of like, this is perfect. You've accidentally like full on set me up for a whole rant here. So we'll come to it in a second. But it's that thing of like, you gotta walk that fine line of like, in my opinion, what you just explained and what you just described is that perfect level of fan service where you're tickling the right people at the right time without going, look, it's the thing, you know, and forcing everyone to Google it if they don't know what it is or whatever. Like, in doing, like, it's clear that they did the map because map transitions is a very Lord of the Rings thing to do. It's very, because of the scale of the world and stuff, it's very like alluring to do like a, they've traveled so far in such a, you know, whatever, because that's like the whole movies is that. The thing about how many drone shots, well, helicopter shots are done of just people running through just a general grass area. So I kind of think, yeah, it almost like it did the fan service thing, but it did the wrong fan service thing for the wrong reason. And like, if you're gonna include fan service, everything needs to come from the story. So like, how do you highlight that beat the most? And maybe fan service is your tool to do that. Maybe having an extra beat on, as you say, the kind of the tracking into the door, you know what this door is, you know who's going to be behind it, if you know. And then you cut it out. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Here's my spin-off rant. So, what's his name? Dan Trachtenberg, right? The Predator guy had a really, really interesting article. I don't know whether you saw it, or like an interview in an article where he's talking about redoing old movies or like rebooting old movies. And he talks specifically about the Star Wars sequels. He talks Force Awakens and he talks Last Jedi, and then he ignores the other one because everyone hates the other one. And he basically what he's saying, and I thought this was a really like prominent point, is he essentially says Prey and Predator are identical to how like Empire Strikes Back and Last Jedi are. You know, like they have, or even I think he even says Force Awakens and Episode 4, like they have the same amount of shared beats, they have the same amount of shared story and the same amount of shared characters, that the point is that you're feeling the same things you felt in the original. He then says, but Star Wars does it, like takes it one step too far by getting single individual events wrong. Like it does too much of one thing at like, and it's literally like frames too much or you know, one line too many that's wanky, and that's what sets our fight or flight off. And it's like that fine balance of how do you do what people want you to do without doing the exact same. And so he basically says it's pot luck whether, you know, you could do a million screen tests, you could get the best writer in the world, and it's pot luck whether that writer puts that one thing in that's just one step too far, and that throws the entire movie. I feel like you got to walk that line with Rings of Power here now as well. And I know that we've had this conversation before about like, it's a positive thing that Howard Shore isn't, you know, spinning out the same shit that he was doing for the movies, because that maybe would contribute to that. That maybe would be that one thing that throws us off or whatever. I think there's been plenty of moments already, and there will be plenty of moments where we're going to really see, oh shit, you guys have gone too far. Oh shit, you guys haven't gone far enough or whatever, you know. Are there any other moments that are kind of screaming out to you like, fuck, I wish they didn't do that?
Yeah, I'm surprised how little they've done that. There's nothing really that comes to mind. I'm sure there'll be something. I'm sure they won't be able to help themselves. Or have like Elrond meet a Isildur or something. I guess Isildur won't be born for like 1,000 years or whatever.
Yeah.
maybe they're lucky. Maybe they're like they can't do it. Their like hand is batted away from the law. They're like, no, you're not allowed to introduce any of these other characters. I don't know. Maybe Elrond and Galadriel in the final episode be like, imagine if a hobbit ever came here. Some bullshit like that.
Yeah. And then they cut and it's fucking Frodo running up to the fucking party or whatever again, and we get to watch the party scene again.
Damn.
Rest in peace, Ian Holm. He's never going to make it back for this one, I don't think.
Oh, fuck. That's why he died. Oh, that's sad. That is funny, though, what you were saying about that. It sounds, funnily enough, talking about Predator and Prey, it sounds like if you're making one of these things, you have to treat the audience like they're a deer or something. And you have to be like subtle enough getting towards them with that kind of underlying tone and feel that you're talking about, hitting those beats and having just enough of a similar story. Once you draw attention to it properly with just like a proper, just saying something from the original, it's like you're the deer grazing and then your head pops up and you run away. So like, oh, that's fucking cringe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like so far the show's done a pretty good job of avoiding that. And then, like we said, like not everything's great, not everything's been like super interesting so far, but it's been original enough while capturing those feelings and that tone. I think to enough of a degree where I'm like hopeful for the rest of the stuff after this.
Yeah. Well, I tightly crossed my fingers. Let's also now just talk about how fucking good it looks. Oh my God. It looks so good. There's that scene in episode 2 where you have like the fireflies. You get the little exposition dump through the visuals of the fireflies. Like, oh, he's looking for his sky friends, and he's showing them where the sky friends are oh my God, I'm sat there like a fucking toddler, just mesmerized by how good this looks. And then he does all the funky shit, and he they come up with the lanterns, and it's already pretty enough, and then he pulls a bunch of fireflies out and does it, and then they all start fucking, oh my God, it's full of that. And conversation scene with Galadriel and Elrond under the fireworks as they're celebrating, and the whole idea that you'd set that scene where she is basically saying we need to stop fucking celebrating, and everywhere you look there's celebrations and beautiful lighting and everything like that. It's fuck, they not only are they doing a really good job at resembling the tone of the movies, they're also doing their own thing really, really fucking well at times as well.
Yeah. They, I remembered however many years ago, maybe 17 years ago at this point, when they announced that Who was making the show. And the J.A. Bayona, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name. Yeah, the guy who's directed the first two. He has a pretty good track record, A Monster Calls, that movie with Liam Neeson, where he's the tree monster. I mean, that's really well put together. And even Jurassic World 2, which I know you haven't seen, but that the script is almost as bad as Dominion, but it is put together in a pretty interesting way, and it has its good action beats and all of that. There's lots of just really good simple visual storytelling in these two episodes, but my favorite example is in the beginning of episode 2. You have the bit where Dory, whatever her name is, Harfoot, looks in the eyes of the celestial guy, and it's close-ups on both of them, and he kind of calms down. And then later on, when she goes back to see him again, he starts freaking out again, and it does that again with the close-ups on both of them, and it gets him to calm down. And nothing's said about it, but you just very clearly get that he's recognizing who this is, and it's kind of forming that relationship, and it's all done visually. And stuff like that. It is such a fucking breath of fresh air after watching fucking Kenobi and sitting through that bullshit and how just bland it all is. Just having that little moment of humanity told to me just with the moving images. I was like, thank fucking God this giant fantasy show is able to put something like that in it, and I can actually notice it and feel what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great at doing stuff like that, and then the bombastic stuff too, like you were saying, the fireflies and that kind of more spectacular visual, or the underwater stuff in episode 2 as well. The anchor pulls Galadriel down and stuff like that. I mean, it's all just it looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, like you mentioned about kind of visual storytelling, there's even it's like, what I would say is it's like loudest said to camera pieces of like, you have that bit where we're introduced to the Harfoots and their nomadic lifestyle and how they like kind of assume how the world works for them by these two completely unrelated travelers who are very, very, very visually distinct because they have these fucking enormous horns on them for some reason, just so that when you see them again in the book that they're looking at that tells them what's going to happen or what's happening throughout the seasons, they're like, oh shit, we know what's next. We know what's coming, that kind of thing. It's like, that's very like to camera, as I say, that's very like it's obvious that you need to make this connection. They need to do it quite loudly, but there's never a point where someone, you know, I don't think, I'm now maybe questioning myself, but I don't think there's ever a point where they go through the book, point at it and go, there are the travelers we just saw a second ago. Oh no, looks like dogs are next, you know, or anything like that. Like they just, it's like that, it's all played out calmly. It's all played out. Yeah, again, it's like just not bothering to blurt out these fucking feelings and thoughts and stuff. And you get, I don't know, you get your moments or whatever.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting one. Because again, I'm not 100% swept by it. It's like I'm gushing a little bit because I think it's cool and I like Lord of the Rings. But like, yeah, it's not doing great things yet. And I think and maybe it was doomed to always fail on this front, but I think because of the money, because of the property, because of the scale, it has to do great things, right? We can't walk away from season 1 feeling the same as we've felt these last 2 episodes by the end of it. Like we just can't, because then you fucked it, you know?
Yeah.
Like they've set the bar too high for themselves almost.
Well, yeah, I think it's funny because I think you and I both kind of had the opinion of the show is obviously a bit pointless and there's no real chance it's going to end up being as good as the movies, but we're going to have to watch it anyway because it's Lord of the Rings and we're fucking suckers.
Mm.
But at least our expectations were kind of limited of this will be like fine or whatever. So now that it is kind of showing these hints that it is going to be maybe a bit better than that, and it maybe we'll be able to pull that off throughout the season, it's given us a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And let's hope that isn't a bad thing in the end and we aren't betrayed.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. I don't see like maybe it's because we're so in the dark about the story and in the dark about what's going to happen, but what's been lined up down the sites, I think it would be very hard to like do it badly. Maybe because it's so simple, like so efficient and simple stories. I'm not sure. There's probably going to be some wanky filler episode where they go on some weird side tangent journey just because they have to, because it's Lord of the Rings. But I mean, I'm sure we'll get there. Although it does feel like the Elfman, Danny Elfman's storyline. But
he'd be great in Lord of the Rings, I think. Just like Danny Elfman, no makeup or anything. Just chuck him in. He could just be an orc.
Mm. Yeah.
I love that, by the way. I love that episode too, how you have just one single orc and they manage to convince you it's like an actual genuine threat in that scene.
They horror movie it up.
Amazing job.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well, because it adds, this is what I kind of want from the series, is the thing about how much that adds to every time we see orcs in the movies, you know? Like it's not changing the movies. It's just giving us that extra step of like, one of these in a room with you would whoop the shit out of your ass immediately, right? Whereas like, so they're slaying hundreds. That's huge, you know? Legolas and Gimli counting is all a big goof in the movies. But now we have this extra context, this tidbit of like, no, they are really, really, really good warriors. That's why it's so easy for them or whatever. And they're almost trivialized on purpose, like made into jokes And this happens a lot, like stormtroopers have it, and like it happens a lot in a lot of properties. It's maybe one of the most like Englishy ways of diminishing your enemy to make your heroes look better, when actually sometimes the fear and the bigger picture is like more interesting. So I'm glad that I don't know, it's little things like that where they are subverting what we usually know. You know, all we needed to tick the box was they bleed black blood and that's it. Whereas now they're doing all sorts. It's fucking awesome. And, you know, they're crawling out of holes and they're being spooky and they're abducting people and shit and like being creepy boys. So yeah, hope they continue that. I'm sure there will be more. I mean, we're kind of in the middle of a story where there has to be more, but
yeah. Can you imagine if there wasn't? Not a single one of the orc shows up in this entire show.
They all just die.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I just had a thought actually, because we're talking about how fucking bland the elf guy character in this story are. With the way it ends in that second episode, where he's like taken away by something, which is it an ent? Is that what you're meant to assume? Because he's like underground and there's like tons of roots and stuff surrounding him. It doesn't look like a human thing. Maybe it's just an orc.
I thought we got more, didn't we? I thought after that he's in with a bunch of orcs in a cave.
Is that what happened? Oh god!
You're throwing me now. Fuck.
The bit he crawls through that hole at one point, and it's like really claustrophobic. Does that happen after he's grabbed?
Happens and shit. No.
The grab is the last thing.
The grab is the last bit of that, and then you get that trailer shot where the hands come out of the thing and slam him in.
Yeah.
But then after that, I think we get another moment where he's down in a cave with a bunch of orcs, and they're all like, there's like tens of them shuffling by with like torches and shit. Can't remember though. Now you're throwing me. Maybe I'm like assuming.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping
know what we say about assume.
That would be a shame, because him interacting with Ents would be a nice way to get him to open up. See the side of him.
That would be cute. And their little moment, the Ent moment. Do you see that? It's like a throwaway shot where they're just like, oh, by the way, this is still in the, in the world. They're just vibing, just doing their thing.
I have one last question. What do you think about the actual intro for the show in the episode 2, credits, all that? Yeah.
I'm surprised at how like it's kind of understated almost for.
Yeah, it's so tame.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, like I'm not. So I remember vividly like wanting to really hear this track that Howard Shore did or whatever, and just kind of like can't remember any of it now.
Yeah. No.
Again, more because it's just understated than anything else, but.
Yeah, I was thinking that when watching it, of like, I know this is his theme, but it's like so nothing and yet, like you say, just understated. But then I thought, well, yeah, it would be fucking weird if it was like epic and all that, when it's just like all these grains of sand or whatever coming together. So it's like, what's the guy got to work with here? Very strange.
I mean, it is. I don't know. I don't hate it. I just think it's very understated. Like, it's maybe a nice way of approaching doing it, because you have your like, even like your Game of Thrones, for example, is a very good one where you have all the fucking, it's just loud, visually loud, music, like musically loud, everything, and then you have the big ending, big finale every time. Whereas from the get-go, I suppose this was supposed to be a little bit more, when you've got the big moments of the fantasy and of the Lord of the Ringsiness, would it, think back to the movies where you have the huge fucking prologue before the title, and then usually it'll be like, well, where could our heroes be now? Cut to wide establishing shot, nothing much really happening, slow fade in, Fellowship of the Ring, or whatever, like, well, in Fellowship of the Ring, it's concerning hobbits and he's just sat at a tree reading a book or whatever. But like, it's the same in all of the movies. It's like that what's epic about it is not necessarily the thing we're looking at right now. Not sure.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's the intro as it exists. I'm very whatever on it. I'm not like, this is shit. Like, I just kind of feel like it didn't, or I wish it didn't exist. Like, I wish it didn't take up a minute of the thing. Like, I wish it would just do like a quick Rings of Power fade away, like a Breaking Bad type of thing.
Well, that happens in the first one. Like, it should have just carried on doing that.
But yeah, it's like really strange. Like, that just, do that. Especially if, I guess that's what we were talking about in terms of stylistically trying to, how too close to the original movies. Because if you did something like that, where it just like flashes Rings of Power, does 5-10 minutes of the episode, and then the title of the episode fades onto the screen. Although I don't think they have titles, these episodes. I think they're just like chapter 1, chapter 2, which is like, oh well.
Whatever, yeah. I think the other thing to think about is like, and this is a perfect comparison because it's the same people, but like you got the boys where they have a very distinct logo, and their idea of introducing an episode is a very visually striking shot with the logo, not like diegetically in shot, but like it's framed for the logo. They knew this was going to be the intro shot because it sums up what's going to happen in the episode like quite nicely, or what sums up where they were in the last episode quite nicely or something, I mean, that's an approach. I don't know it would work stylistically the same way, but like the efficiency of that. We're in the age of streaming where I'm fucking surprised. Maybe it did come up, maybe it didn't, but I'm surprised the little skip intro button didn't come up while we were watching it. Like it's not really designed for you to watch it every episode. It's designed for you to see once and be like, oh yeah, nice, and then skip it every other time, which again, it's weird because that's not what we like or we're used to necessarily.
Yeah.
But like the way that the boys manages to very cinematically do that, essentially the skip button works like full of charm every single time they do it. So I don't know why they couldn't just employ a bit of that kind of magic in here, but not sure. Well, I guess because Game of Thrones didn't do it, so therefore they couldn't do it, I suppose. Don't know. I'm impressed though at how good Amazon are at getting cinema feel in their shows, because no one else is. I mean, it is happening elsewhere, but no one's getting it like they are for me. Like The Boys, you could strip that into a 2-hour movie and it would be perfect. Yeah,
it is a different. Again, going back to like the easy comparison of House of the Dragon and this, like House of the Dragon feels like prestige television. And it's like sets and costume, all of that. It just feels like really well done TV, like HBO. But yeah, there are moments of this that have that slight, it's a more cinematic, movie feel. Like that ice troll fight, for instance. I'd say that's a good kind of example of something like that, where again, it's like greater scale, I guess, or it's
Yeah. Well, but even the whole boat bit and the big kraken thing. The worm or whatever the fuck he calls it, which is just hilarious. Like, even that, you're looking at visuals that no one could afford outside of movies for a very long time, And House of the Dragon kind of goes, yeah, we're going to do dragons and stuff, but we're not even going to try to afford more than the dragons or whatever. We're just going to shoot differently, which is fine. It's very, stylistically a whole way of doing it, but you could tell they weren't going for it with this. I just find that interesting. You blow it up on a big screen, that would feel like you're watching just movies, straight movies.
Yeah.
But cool. Well, I mean, I'm kind of eagerly anticipating the next one. Again, it's like that thing of I'm looking forward to watching it, not necessarily because I've been delighted by everything that's happened so far, but more because there's a threat that it might be really good eventually. I don't know. And not in like an Obi-Wan where the dying, glimmering, faint light of hope dies within seconds and you're stuck in a grueling adventure for the next like fucking, that happens end of episode 1, you kind of feel like it's going to go nowhere. So,
Yeah. I mean, like, us watching each episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it was a bit like watching the kid who's like blowing snot out his nose, because it's like, what stupid thing is he going to do next? What can we laugh at? But this is something where it actually has potential to, just be genuinely good. And like, as someone who is getting to watch House of the Dragon and this back to back, like it like bookends the weekend pretty much, like Friday night, Sunday night. Pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty nice. I get to do that on my sofa every week for the next couple of months.
Oh, it is nice to have a show again after the boys left me in drought. And well, I mean, before the boys, the one that I had a moment the other day where I nearly relapsed and went back to fucking 2006 Doctor Who or whatever, because I thought about how good Around the World in 80 Days was, and I was like, fuck, I want a show again. Why do I not have
David
a show?
Tennant.
And then it came out, so we're all good. So it is nice to have a show again. But yeah.
Final question to end this. David Tennant is cast in Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Who is he playing? What character? What race?
What existing characters, or shall I just make someone up?
Yeah, do whatever.
I mean, he would make a fucking weird, like Celebrimbor, wouldn't he? Like just a mad scientist type, where he's like really finicky about his art. I think David Tennant is like one of the better actors in this world, by the way. Been really thinking about it these last few days after the lack of him woke me up during the night. I was thinking, fuck, he's actually really good. Really like that guy. God damn. He has a podcast. I wonder if he'd come on this. Probably not.
Send him that clip. We'll do it.
You heard the man. Send us a fucking DM, Dave. Maybe we're not at Dave yet. I'm not sure.
Mr. Tennant, I'll refer to him.
Wasn't his name like McDonald or something? David McDonald. And then he changed it because everyone changes their name in acting.
Because he's a big fan of the Christopher Nolan epic. Then he didn't realise that's how it's spelled. He watched the movie 10 times, never seeing the box art once.
Jesus. All right, well, that's me. You got anything else?
I'd cast him as a dwarf, because that would be really fucking hard to
do. How even would you do that?
Yeah, you have to like go to new lengths in terms of like forced perspective and fucked up sex.
Oh no, you see, he would be like what's the Irish dude who is like good actor, and then he was a hobbit, one of the hobbits in The Hobbit. With the funny, like, flappy hair hat thing. He's an Irish actor, UK, British, Irish actor who is like, I gotta Google it now.
There's no help for you here. I've seen all the Hobbits once when they came out a decade ago, and I refuse to watch them again.
Where is he? Where is he? Fucking hell. They've screwed the cast list on this, man. The billing is weird. Oh, he still hasn't even come up yet. He's like an actual established... Oh my god. This James Nesbitt. There you go.
Who are you talking about?
You don't know who James Nesbitt is?
I don't think so. No. Maybe if you like show me a picture of him.
Yeah, here you go. This is IMDb. James.
Wow.
The mobile IMDb.
Yeah. Wait, who does he play?
He's a hobbit. An obbit. Bofa. Bofa these nuts.